Now, global cybersecurity firm Sophos has said that 71% of Nigerian businesses it surveyed were hit with ransomware in 2021, up from 22% in 2020. The company disclosed this in its State of Ransomware 2022 report. The report also reveals that a total of $706,452 was paid as a ransom to the cybercriminals by Nigerian businesses in the year. The average cost of a rectifying cyber attack in the country also went up from $0.46 million in 2020 to $3.46 million in 2021. According to the report, 44% of the organizations that had data encrypted paid the ransom to get their data back, even when they had other means of data recovery, such as backups. Let's get talking right away. Oluwadare Phillips is an IT consultant. He joins us via the telephone now. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Yeah, a lot of people do not understand what cyber attack means. So let's begin by explaining what that attacks mean, what this term means, cyber attack.
All right, cyber attack, as we have it, is an assault launched by cyber criminals using maybe one or more computers against a single computer or a network of computers in order to breach the data that are on those computers or network, and to install, like you mentioned rightly in the reports, malware, ransomware, and a lot of other dangerous software in such a way that the networks either goes offline totally, or to hold them to ransom by holding on to their data.
So basically, that's what it means. Let's look at some of the companies, especially in this era, that likely be affected from different sectors of the economy. I know that banks make use of, they have to make use of technology a lot in their operations compared to other sectors of the economy. If this is true, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's no sector that is foolproof from any form of cyber attacks, even from the largest corporations that we have in the world, from Facebook to Google. It's a big money market, whereby companies that have to do with data always spend so much money for cybersecurity experts in such a way to prevent breach of data on their computers and networks. So, like you rightly mentioned, banks, there are other, apart from banks, I have government, we have health sectors that are also prone to cyber attacks because of the kind of information they view, cyber criminals view that these organizations or banking institutions hold. So they believe that once they can penetrate into those data networks and they are able to secure some of this data, then you are at their mercy, and they will do all
because I was going to permit me to jump in. I was going to ask you what you think inform these cyber criminals, as you call them. In this kind of acts. Why do you think they go about, apart from the fact that they are after information, or like you said, data? So what exactly informed this?
Yeah, you compare the number of statistics of people who use a lot of applications online, a lot of softwares online, maybe both for mobile and for, say, your desktop. It has increased because of due to the fact that we had the lockdown. So we have more businesses online, we have more companies online pushing up a lot of data. So it's opened up a lot of information for cyber criminals to be able to look into aspects that they were not looking into before.
So let's look at the negative impact or effects on businesses, and what you think the consequences or implications of these are on the businesses.
Yeah, for businesses hit by cyber attacks, most of the time it has to do with aside the data breach, taking off the business offline and sharing some of this data with other cyber criminals, and that is one of the reasons why even though it's not advisable, maybe law enforcement agencies around the world kick against paying ransom for any ransomware you have on your system to cyber criminals. People still find themselves paying because they don't want you getting the information from cyber criminals that your data has been breached, as opposed to them getting it back and just doing it at the back door.
Because if you look at how much was paid as ransom for these, that's about $706,452 in 2021 alone. And again, if you look at the average cost of rectifying these, it has also jumped from around 0.46 million US dollars in 2020 to 3.43 million. I mean, what's the implication of these for these businesses?
Yeah, the implications are very dire, and it's a sorry case because you would have expected that with some of these companies just coming back from some of the effects of the COVID pandemic and trying to get their businesses back online, have them breached. So with all of this happening, it makes it very worrisome that they have to find themselves in a situation whereby they have to be parting out with some of their profits or even capital in such a way to recover this data from the cyber criminals.
Now,
even though they have backup, like the report rightly said, even in and outside of Nigeria, we have companies who have the backup, but then the fear of recovery, the time some businesses cannot afford to go offline because sometimes when these cyber criminals launch their attack and take down maybe your data, take down your applications, you might be offline for days, and the world we are in this century doesn't wait for you to keep explaining or giving excuses as to why you are offline. So most people will want to guide against going offline for a long time as opposed to paying the ransom and getting their data back and launching back their businesses back online.
Okay, I was going to ask you what you think are some of the factors that can get a company exposed to these attacks or these attackers.
Yeah, there are several issues that make you at the risk for cyber attacks, and some of them are due to weak or login credentials. We have a situation whereby aside those you using weak passwords and not implementing two-factor authentication, some companies don't compartmentalize their data in such a way that once an employee has a login or an access to the system, once that access gives access to almost all sensitive information. So one of the things that companies could do is to minimize the way the access given to employees, administrative privileges on networks and computers based on the kind of things that you do. And you must also have a password policy whereby you review from time to time. So it's not something that someone could easily write their passwords on say like a sticky note and keep it beside them. It's just in case they don't want to forget. Another thing companies need to imbibe is the use of devices, your private devices on your office network. We have a policy that some companies have already started using for a while. That's bring your own device policy, whereby any device you are bringing to the office you are not using it based on the computer. You're using it to access information on the computer. You're not logging into your private mobile phone, your personal laptop to be able to access sensitive information that has to do with data at work. So another issue that companies need to is the lack of training, effective training of the employees about the risk that businesses are facing through phishing and online email scams, and installing free software, whereby you get the free software, because some companies in Nigeria, I think I've encountered, would compromise as to buying maybe a full-fledged software from the company, and will just go and download some free software they found to be able to help them maybe for a CRM or some other purposes. Another one will be employing anti-malware, anti-ransomware, antivirus softwares on all your networks and having to check them that they're actually doing what they need to do. And then lastly, another method or way to prevent you from being at risk will be making sure that the complexity of your login credentials to your network.
So basically, you are talking to us now on what are the things that a company should do to prevent, being hacked or being attacked by these cyber criminals.
Yes.
But let's look at it. I mean, we do know that companies, most of these companies, they have their own software, they buy them and all of that. But again, we also understand that on the other side, these guys, have a kind of coding and that scan through the internet to get data and all of that. I mean, how possible is that? And what are some of the things that a company should put in place aside buying and getting their own softwares the right way?
All right. For companies that actually go through the process of getting quality softwares on their networks, on their computers, be like what I was mentioning the other time, that you need to put up a policy, because we have, like you rightly mentioned, whereby these cyber criminals run several series of programs to try and find vulnerability in your network due to maybe weak access, weak passwords or weak logins to your data, and they also find insider information. There are sometimes that these are not also done by maybe because of launching attacks on you. Maybe because there's an employee that is lax with giving out information about what the company does and carefully gives out some very vital information, and they could get them from some of these employees. So that's another reason.
Well, let's also look at what your advice is for a company, for instance, who have experienced a cyber attack, what they should do in that kind of situation to salvage that situation at that time.
Yeah, my advice would be that if even though it's a rule in the cybersecurity world not to pay ransoms, I know that a lot of companies do pay ransoms, even though it's not news out there that they do. But if you find yourself, depending on the kind of severity of the breach of data that you might have, there are times that you can actually recover your data from backup and re-encrypt those data, so that whatever information or the data that the cyber criminal might have will become useless. But most companies don't actually do that, so they feel, like I said earlier in my statement, that paying for it is better. But if you have been breached before and you've taken some measures to be able to prevent it for the future, if you ever had a data breach, just make sure that you look at the way you compartmentalize your data, so in such a way that it might be that you just lost maybe 10% or 20% of your data, and it's something that you can recover. Why not?
Right.
You should be able to recover your data from backups that you have with some of these secure networks that you have them. Then you recover and you just make your policy more tighter than it used to be.
I think we need to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Oluwadare Phillips is an IT consultant. We appreciate you talking to us on how to prevent against cyber attack. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ron.